Hi, my name is Chris Houston, and I'd like to describe for you some of the basics of the logic models for the Career and Technical Education Academy for Continuous Improvement. What is a program logic model? A logic model is really a graphical representation of how your program will be implemented and the impacts of your program. It's a picture of how your program will work. Some of the benefits include describing how your program will work and really planning what the intended results are and how you will achieve those results. The best time to create a logic model is when you're starting a program, but a logic model is also very useful in evaluating what's working. When you look at the impacts and the outcomes of your program, for example, your completion rates or your students' pass rates on national exams, you may ask yourself, are these the desired outcomes that I wish to achieve? And if not, then you might go back and say, well, what activities am I missing, or what resources do I not have in order to get the desired outcomes that I wish to have? So what's basically included in a logic model are inputs and outputs. The inputs are resources. What do you need to accomplish your program goals? Things like faculty and space and equipment, advice from advisory boards, funding. What activities are you going to plan? What courses are you going to use? What labs? What internships? What type of mentoring are you going to have in place? Then the output side comes in the outcomes, both short-term and long-term. For example, what are my course-specific outcomes? What skills and knowledge do I want my students to have after a certain course or a certain semester? And then what programmatic outcomes, long-term outcomes? What graduation rate do I want? What pass rate on the national exam do I expect to have? And then the impacts on the community are really what your long-term impacts are. So for example, in the state of Colorado, 90% of the first responders are trained by community colleges. So that's a huge impact that the community college EMS programs and first responder programs have had on our community. What does it look like? This is a visual representation of a logic model, and again, you see the inputs. What are we going to invest? Okay. On this logic model, it shows outputs as activities. I kind of think of activities as another form of input. But then we get the participation in those activities and we reach our outcomes. Short-term, things like skills and knowledge, and then our long-term impacts are things that our students are achieving by taking our programs. So a short example would be planning a family vacation. So the resources that you have are the holiday flight schedules, your family schedules, your frequent flyer miles. Activities include creating a schedule with your family and who you might be going to visit, booking your travel, arranging your ground transportation, packing. The outputs would be that you have tickets for everyone, you've used up your frequent flyer miles, perhaps you've saved money in doing this, and the desired outcomes are that everyone's going to enjoy the family vacation with the impact of being good family relations. So how will I use the logic model in my program? And again, I think looking at what do you want to have come out of your program is really an important thing. What completion rates, success rates, passing of exams, work, how many students are working in the field. Those are kind of long-term outputs, but short-term outputs are what skills and behaviors that students have after a course. And then working backwards, what will we do to achieve those outputs? What courses will we teach? What experiential learning opportunities, labs, internships? What type of exam prep do we offer? And then what resources do we have to offer those things? So again, starting with the end in mind, if you look at long-term outcomes and short-term outcomes, industry-specific skills, completion rate, board exam, job placement rates, so those are things that you desire, specific behaviors and skills. You can break that down into what skills and knowledge do you want students to have in the short term. And then you can develop your activities with the resources that you have. So things like you have a credentialed faculty and certain instructors that you bring on board, your advisory board members. Those are all resources, the funds that you have, and that helps you determine what types of activities that you want to use. And these activities relate back to that curriculum mapping, is that you can map them to what your desired outcome is. So for example, if your desired outcome is to teach a student the use of the electronic medical record, what courses do you offer in that? What software do you have that students can practice on that electronic medical record? So some questions to ask about your program might be, are we satisfied with the outputs? So are we achieving the desired results that we have? Are we meeting students' needs? Do they have the skills that they need to be successful? If we're in a nationally accredited program, are we passing our accreditation standards? Do students pass their national exam? And then long term, what impact do your program have in the community? And once you question your outputs, then you can go in and look at your inputs. Are we providing the right resources for our students? What additional resources do we need? Are we completing the right activities in order to give students those skills? So an example for this might be in our pharmacy technician program, we recently had an advisory board member bring to our attention that they are using some new equipment to package prescription medications for long-term care facilities, since those usually don't have a pharmacy on site. So that was an output that we needed to do, is teach students about this equipment. So what we really had to do is go back and look at what resources we had and purchase that equipment so that we could train students on how to complete that activity. So remember, the logic model can enhance the evaluation of your program by determining the desired outcomes and thus working backwards to assist you in planning what activities you will do and what resources that you need. I've included a couple of other resources here. The Kellogg Foundation has really been the leader in this, and this is a great resource if you want to know some more about the logic model. Thank you.